Hey everyone, I'm just going to give a couple more minutes for people to join and then we'll get started. Hi everyone, my name is Scott Brown. I'm with the California Department of Social Services. I am part of the ACMS project. I'm joined here by Brendan Barnett, who is also a coworker of mine on the ACMS project. Just to give you a quick overview, the ACMS is a system for the State Hearings Division of CDSS to kind of replace an older system to handle all of our appeals and case management, including scheduling and and reports and rehearings and all of that. As a tool, it's valuable to our partner agencies like Department of Healthcare Services and you guys, the health plans that work with DHCS, as a way to assist with sharing documents and kind of cutting out some of the middleman communication that's necessary now. In short, this is replacing our current case management system. So that means that when appeals come to us from anybody, either in a written form or via a phone call, or people have the ability now to go onto a web interface for the system and submit appeals that way. They all come in the door through the various methods that are available now, plus that web interface, and then they get reviewed internally here. We ensure that the agencies that are tied to those appeals, that the issues that are on those appeals are all correct, and then move them along their workflows so that they can be scheduled, so that DHCS, the health plans, anybody else who's involved can be aware of the appeal's existence, its content, and have the ability to share documents and things like that, and just general knowledge of the status of an appeal and that sort of thing. So I do have a fairly short-ish training. This is intended for the health plan users, not really for the Department of Healthcare users themselves. This is mostly just going to cover the aspects of system interaction that a health plan user would be involved in. So we're going to look at how to log in and just kind of the basic way that the system is set up, navigation of your home screen. Then we'll look at assigning a hearing representative to an appeal, uploading your SOP and any other documents you have, and then viewing decisions and ultimately completing any compliance actions that might have resulted from a decision. So with that, I'd like to point out that there is a PowerPoint document that should be uploaded under the handout section of the GoToWebinar interface. If you guys want to download that and follow along with it, that will essentially be the guide that I'm using to walk through this training. And you can always keep it for reference for later on, but be aware that we will also be creating some actual user guides for the system for each role, and those will contain more of a step-by-step sort of detailed approach to all of the various functions that you might have in the system. If you have any questions during the training, feel free to use the questions section there in the webinar interface. You just click that little arrow on the left, drop it down, and type your question in. Brendan, who's with me here today, will be monitoring those. I will be taking periodic stops in the training content to address questions that come through, and anything that Brendan can answer sort of during the content, he will take care of that as it goes. Right, so I think we're ready to go ahead and get started. So when you first arrive at the ACMS homepage, this is what your screen will look like. This is just a general login screen for you. User accounts will all be created before go live, and so you'll have your username and your login information before we actually start using the system. So you won't have to worry about that. There is a form that's going around. If you don't have it, let me know. We can make sure to send it out to you. But essentially, it just asks you to specify some details about yourself, which division or company or whatever you work for, and the access within ACMS that you're going to need. And so if that doesn't sound familiar, just let me know either in the question section. If we get a handful of those, I'll just send the form out to everyone. If I don't get any, I won't bother with that. So first things first, we'll go ahead and just get logged in. I've already created a user for myself for this training. All right. So keeping in mind, this account is a health plan user account. So really what I'm seeing is what you should be seeing with some minor exception. This is a training environment, so it's not fully configured the way that the final production system will be. One thing that's different is these two buttons at the top. You won't see these because you won't be inputting new appeals into the system. That will be a function of state hearings. So you can ignore those two, but otherwise, the major pieces of this dashboard that you're going to be interested in are the appeal search here. If you know a case number, you can type it in here and hit the search button, and that will bring up the results here. You just click the magnifying glass to navigate to that appeal, and then do what you need to do. We'll be seeing that a few times throughout this training, so I'm going to continue on with the dashboard here. This section here, it's really a set of shared reports. I'm not sure if you're going to see this or not, but reporting is something that the system is very capable of doing. And so if there are a set of reports that you would be interested in to be accessible regularly, that's definitely something that we can implement so that you can have access to that. So moving down, the real value in this dashboard is this set of queues on the left-hand side here. What these are essentially categories of work that need to be done or monitored. So right now there's just these 5. You may have 1 or 2 additional on the live system. But just briefly, the case view history is going to show you the last 5 appeals that you've visited. That's just kind of a quick reference in case you need to get back to something and you can't quite remember the case number or the name of the person. The My Assigned Tasks queue is going to list any tasks to which you are directly assigned. So this is on a user level. And this is only for tasks specifically, as opposed to the My Cases, which I'll explain in just a second. But in this case, I'm assigned to a Submit SOP task, which we'll see in a minute. But that essentially means that it's my job to provide the SOP for this appeal. So the next queue is My Cases. This one is slightly different in that if I'm the assigned hearing rep on an appeal, that will show up here, as long as that appeal is still open. When the appeal is closed out with a decision, then it'll be taken off this list. The next 2 are probably some of the most valuable. The cases without a hearing rep. This will list any appeals that have been input into the system, which have not yet been assigned to the health plan's hearing representative. So as a matter of habit, when you first log into the system, and you may only log in, once, twice, maybe 3 times a day to kind of check on these things. But when you log in, one of the first places you want to come is to this Cases Without a Hearing Rep queue here, because this is going to let you know of any new work that's been input into the system. And just following this is going to be the SOP needed, which we saw a little bit of here under My Assigned Tasks. So the natural flow of the appeal is that it'll be assigned a hearing rep, and then once the hearing rep is assigned, that hearing rep will be given this SOP needed task, which will then appear in their My Assigned Tasks, so that individually I can keep track of the appeals that I need to write an SOP for. So right there, I kind of want to take a small break and see if there's any questions. If there's anything that's confusing about this setup or anything like that, just let me know. I'll give you guys a couple seconds to type, and then if not, we'll go ahead and move on to the next section.
All right, Scott, looks like we don't have any questions at this point.
Okay. Yep. All right. I will address, we will address any questions that come through, but for now, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next bit. In general, you can always find any new appeals here in this cases without a hearing rep. It's practice now and will remain practice for any kind of urgent appeal, anything that's expedited or anything like that. There will be manual notification. Somebody will be directly contacting the plans. So if state hearings expedites an appeal, we'll let DHCS know as soon as possible. DHCS will let you know. And that's just a way to keep track of anything that has a strict kind of priority to it. But again, as I said, logging into the system maybe once, twice, 3 times a day is really the best way to just pop into this queue here, see if there's anything new. If there is, go ahead and get it assigned to yourself so that you can be aware that the SOP needs to be written for that appeal. So to show you how to assign yourself as the hearing rep, all you need to do is go to the cases without a hearing rep queue, click on the appeal that you'd like to assign to yourself. And then once this loads up, you should see a button right down here. There's a couple buttons, one's for documents and one's for hearing representatives. So here, I just want to, since I want to assign a hearing representative, I click this button. It'll bring up a pop-up here, and this pop-up should show any users that are listed under the particular responsible agency that I belong to. In this case, I just chose a health plan. I picked Turtle Health Plan because I like turtles. That's the only reason. So there's only one user under that health plan. So I'm going to select myself, and then I'm going to hit the Select Hearing Representative button. And that should now list me as the hearing representative here. As an optional but really recommended thing, the phone number here, this is just a free text field so that I can input a phone number that for communication purposes, really. If there's questions or anything like that, being able to know who to directly contact is a big time saver. Also, the phone number that's entered here ideally would be whatever phone number the judge at the hearing should be calling to contact the assigned hearing representative. So just keep that in mind. It's a great communication tool. It's something that we don't have now. And it's just a way to kind of speed things along. So once you do have the training user assigned, I'm going to go ahead and try to save here. This had an error earlier, and if it does, I'll do it a different way, and it did. So again, this is just one of many environments, and this isn't quite production ready yet. But I'm going to go ahead and use an admin account here to do the same thing. And then we'll move along. So just give me a minute here. Okay. So state hearings can also do this hearing rep assignment for you if we know who it is. I don't think we're typically going to do it, but if for whatever reason we needed to, we can do this. I'm going to go ahead and just select that person again, and then I'll save it. Which appears to also be having an error. So that's unfortunate. Hang on just a second, guys. Sorry about that. Thought I was on the right person here, but maybe I was not. Oh, okay, there we go. All right. So now if we go back over here, we're back on our health plan user here. And if we scroll down, so this is still listed here, and I'll show you why. So the queues are usually, they populate based on a task that exists on an appeal. So we use tasks to keep track of requests that come in, such as postponements or dismissal requests or things like that. Those create what we call a task. So initially, the assigned hearing representative task is created by the system, and that's what lets this queue know that appeal has to be there. So after we assign the hearing representative, we just want to close this task out. We would just select that the hearing representative is assigned. Hopefully this, yep, that saves. And then if we go back here to our cases about a hearing rep queue and we refresh this, that appeal is now gone. So we know that that appeal is now assigned to somebody, it's being worked, so we're good there. So what did happen though is that after we assigned the hearing representative, it created this submit SOP task and automatically assigned that hearing representative to it. So back here on our home screen, I mentioned the SOP needed queue. So this should now show our appeal that was recently assigned to us. So again, this list right here, the SOP needed, are things that are assigned, the SOP needed tasks that are assigned to us. So the My Assigned tasks over here will show those as well as any other tasks that are assigned to us. So in one way, this is a little bit redundant here, but in another, the My Assigned task is going to give you an idea of your greater overall workload if you happen to have any other tasks assigned to you. If all you're worried about is the SOPs that need to be created, this queue is a little more efficient. So I'm going to take a quick break there, see if we have any questions.
Yeah, no questions at this point.
Okay. Then moving along, the next thing to do is I'll show you guys how to upload your SOP and any other additional documents you might have. So just kind of resetting where we are here. So let's just pretend that we've just logged in. We're going to scroll down here to our queues section, and we're going to check out this SOP needed queue or My Assigned tasks. Once we're here, we're going to find the appeal that we've written our SOP for, and we need to upload to the system. So we'll just click here. This will bring up that appeal. And this gives us a place to, remember how I said that as long as the task is open, it will continue to remain on that list. But once we've written the SOP and we upload it, we don't really want that to be there anymore because that work is done. So from here, there's this nifty little button down here. Remember previously there was a hearing representative one too, and now it's just a documents one. So we're going to use this document slider. We're going to bring this up. You can see here that this currently lists all the documents that have been applied to this appeal. In this case, there's the system-generated acknowledgement letter, and this stays on the appeal. It's visible to the claimant and anybody else who has access to this appeal. Any other system-generated documents will be also, including the final decision document that will appear here, and anything that's manually uploaded will also appear here, which is good because it means that if you upload the SOP directly into the system here, you don't also have to send it to DHCS. They can access it directly from the system, as well as the claimant. So from this document slider here, we just want to create a new document. And this is going to bring us over to a new little tab over here, just to keep it kind of clean. So this is what adding a new document looks like. There's a little bit of a detail we want to capture here because the intent is really to capture what this document represents without the need for a huge sort of naming convention to give us that information. So there are categories and types that we can choose from. This is a full list. Not everything here will be shown in the production system. For example, the hearing audio isn't something you guys are ever going to try to upload, right? But many of these will be, and importantly, the statement of position will be. So the category we're going to choose is statement of position, and the type we're going to choose is also statement of position. The distinguishing factor between statement of position and the amendment or attachment isn't to say that you need to upload all SOP attachments or exhibits separately. It's just to say that if you have additional attachments that come after the fact, you can upload those and denote them specifically as an attachment to the SOP. But if you have the SOP in its entirety with all of its exhibits, you just select this. You'll just kind of give it a basic name here. Again, this name, it's required, but it's not, there's no specific naming convention that we're enforcing because the granularity that we're getting from these categories here. So the last thing you want to do is actually click the Browse button here and select your file. I just have a few files here. I'm going to select a random one. You would be choosing your actual SOP document here. And that's all the information you need. If for whatever reason you're uploading something other than an SOP and you can't find a good category that fits it, you can always select Other and then Additional Document. And that's just going to be sort of a generic additional document. If you do that, this description field down here is really valuable because it gives you a place to specify some context around that file that you're uploading. But again, for now, we're going to go ahead and select the statement of position. So after you've got all that information in there, you just click Save. And just like that, the statement of position is now attached to this appeal. Again, DHCS can see it. There's no need to send them a separate file. The claimant can see it at this point. So if they do have an account in the system, which allows them to log in and actually view their appeals and the status of their appeals and any documents attached to their appeals, we do consider that as the moment that the SOP was made available to the claimant. So that kind of concludes how to upload the SOP. I'll stop and check to see if there's any questions.
So we did have one question from Marcy. She asked, can the names of hearing reps be added to the system without creating a user ID for them? And that's a great question. Currently, you can't do that. You have to have an account to assign the hearing representative. However, the ALJ can add the hearing representative as an attendee at the hearing without that person having an account. But I think that's a great enhancement that we will log and put into our backlog with the ability to name a hearing representative, add the agency of that person and the contact information of that person without them having to have an account. So thanks for that. That's a great enhancement, I think, that we should definitely implement.
I'm just going to take a quick note for that real fast, and then we'll get back to the training.
And we have another question here, also from Marcy, is does the SOP still need to be mailed to the claimant?
So we were just joined by Juliet McCauley, and she's kind of our local expert on all things DHCS. So I am going to let her address that question.
So I would say for claimants that have an account in ACMS, we would not mail that to them because they'd be able to access it through the system. But for claimants that don't have an account in SOP, an account in ACMS, yes, the SOPs would still have to be sent.
We do have an enhancement whereby there's the ability, and I don't want to make any promises here because I know some of these SOPs get really, really big, but we do have an enhancement whereby a document that's manually uploaded to the system can be sent to our printers to be mailed out via the normal mailing procedures. So that, like I said, a lot of those get really big, so no promises there. That's probably beyond the capacity for printing, but there's, I guess, a possibility there.
We have another question from Ingo. Sometimes we want more than one person available. Can we enter in the contact number field a conference line and participant code? I think really the question is that field a text field where they can enter anything, or is it a formatted phone number field?
Mm-hmm. Good question. So that is just an unvalidated text field. You can't enter anything you want there. As long as the number that you're providing is a number that the judge would be able to call to reach you for the hearing, that would be perfectly fine. As a side note, we do have an enhancement that we'll be implementing shortly after go live, where you would be able to specify multiple hearing representatives. So if you had a primary and a secondary, somebody who would be available to partake in the hearing, if the primary was not available, you would also have that option.
We have another question here from D. How will we know if the claimant has an account?
I can show you what that looks like. So how you would tell is to navigate to the claimant's actual profile. I'm going to get there by going to the appeal first and then checking out the profile. I think that's an ability we have here. Yeah. So there's a button here on the main appeal page for any appeal that says View Claimant. So bringing this up takes you to the claimant's profile page here. And here, you should be able to see right here if there is a user account. If this is not an actual text field here, this is just a read-only sort of name, then you know that they have one. And also, you should be able to see here the preferred mode of communication is an email address. So the combination of those two really is going to give you the best indication that they have an account and that they prefer to receive things via email. If that's the case, then after the SOP is uploaded, they're notified and they can retrieve the SOP in the system rather than having to worry about mailing it. So via a little bit of internet magic here, you can see that this person now does have a user account. So this would be the indication that that they would be able to receive this document in the system, and that you wouldn't have to worry about mailing that.
I would say if there's any doubt at all, just go ahead and mail it.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. All these extra windows here.
And that's all the questions we have at this point.
Okay, great. So we did upload our SOP. I can't remember if we closed this task. I don't think we did. So I'm going to go ahead and close it now. Again, this task, this submit SOP task here, is what's causing that the appeal to be listed here on this SOP needed queue. So, so if I select the action that the hearing prep is completed and save that, and then we go back to our queue here, if we refresh this, then that's no longer shown there. So that's no longer pending work that we need to concern ourselves with. All right. So at this point, we've uploaded the SOP, and presumably we're participating in a hearing. For the most part, any of those processes, like actually participating in the hearing, that's all going to be very, very similar to how it is now. The judge is still going to call everyone. The judge's interaction with the system is not going to affect your end of it at all. Under the assumption that that the hearing has concluded at this point and that a decision has been written, really at this point, your concern is, well, what was the decision? So we will have a queue for you to quickly find those. It's not being shown here, but I have created something to show you kind of generally how that would work. I just made a saved search here that's going to list all the decisions for my agency and whether or not they require compliance. So this report, this view here, is going to look very similar to what you would see on the queue on the home page. And this report is telling me that there is one decision that's been released. It does not require compliance, but we're going to go ahead and take a look at that. So here we are on the appeal. This has had a decision released. We can see that here. In order to view the decision, it's going to be listed under the documents tab here, and you can see right here we have our final decision document. So the initial document that's created by the judge is written in a Word format, but by the time it gets attached to the appeal, it's going to be converted to a PDF. And this is the document that's available for everyone to view. The format's a little bit different if you've seen these before, but generally it's pretty much the same kind of thing. After taking a look at that, if there's compliance that you need to worry about, there will be also another queue, another one here on the home page. And I can show you here in the PowerPoint that's attached what that looks like, since it's not showing up here on my screen, but let's see here. So right here is kind of what it looks like. It would just be listed as another queue, right? So you got your cases without hearing rep, that's what you needed, and then your decision compliance here. So this is just going to bring up another queue, and this is going to list the same thing that the search I just did showed you, except it should also show whether or not compliance is, sorry, that's obvious because compliance has to be required for it to show up here. The decision compliance is a task much like the others that we've seen. So from this queue, you would just click on the case number, which would take you to the appeal. As we saw earlier, this one here. And then that is a task like any other. It would just be listed here. You have the option to upload a document or add some sort of written explanation as to how the compliance was met. And so you would upload the document via the Documents tab as we saw earlier. You can do that from the slider. Documents can be uploaded here from the slider and then new document there. Alternatively, the tabs up here will let you do that as well. You can create a new document from here. And there should be, right here, compliance document. So you would just label this as a compliance document, attach your document, and then like the assign hearing rep or the submit SOP, we would just go in here and close that compliance task. And that would take it off the queue, again, so that we know that that work is done and it's not still bugging us. So again, I'm going to take a quick break and check for some questions.
Yeah, one question from Marcy. She wants to know if it's possible to redirect a hearing to via the system, and really that's asking, can I indicate whether or not this case belongs to another agency or a different health plan?
Yeah, so that's a good question, and that's come up a couple of times, and I'm kind of happy it has, because it's sort of reinforcing the need to ensure that that's handled smoothly and properly. As I understand it from previous training, there are some of the smaller health plans that sort of delegate the work out to some larger health plan, like Kaiser, for instance. And it's really Kaiser that's going to be involved in the hearing more than the other health plan. So So that said, we do have the ability right now within the existing interface to reassign the appeal. I'm going to take a look here to see if I can do that. It might not let me here, but I can show you where that would be done. So yeah, actually I can right now. So the best way to do that, you can see here that the responsible agency breakdown shows sort of a three-tier thing here. DHCS is the high-level one. Under DHCS, they have a managed care division, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And then under the managed care division are all the health plans. So in this case, my Turtle health plan, which I don't know, it could be a small one. It sounds like it might be a small one. I could go in here and just reassign this to, say, Kaiser, for example, and then save this. So in the production system, what that's going to do is it's going to essentially take this appeal away from my health plan, which means that I won't necessarily, from this point on, be able to continue taking actions on this appeal. But Kaiser now will. And really the best way to communicate this is outside of the system. So I highly doubt that any of these appeals are going to be just kind of passed over to other agencies without any sort of communication between those two agencies in general. But it's probably a best practice to be in contact with, say, Kaiser if you're going to be passing them an appeal. Alternatively, much like when we went to our cases needing SOP, cases without an SOP, without a hearing rep queue on our dashboard, if I was now a Kaiser user, that appeal would now show up on my dashboard, and that would also be notification for me. So I hope that answers that question. We'll see if there's any more.
I know that's the only question we had outstanding.
Okay, great. Let's see. Let me just run through this PowerPoint real quick, make sure I'm not missing anything here. We covered compliance, we covered documents and SOPs. We covered finding a hearing rep and sort of the basic home screen layout. So I think we've pretty much covered all of the system interactions that that you guys really need to be particularly concerned with. I will let you know that the PowerPoint here, which is attached to the webinar, you can find it in the handout section. There is some information in the beginning of the PowerPoint that I didn't cover, just some kind of some of the privacy and security stuff. Really, I encourage you to read that just to be familiar with it, although it's probably not anything new to you, but it's included in there because it is important, but I just felt that getting straight to the content was a little more important for you guys. If there are any other questions, we can address those now. If not, really the content of the training has been covered, so I'll give a moment here to see if any questions come through.
Yeah, it looks like there hasn't been any additional questions at this point, but I think we just do want to add that while this is the initial training and exposure to ACMS, this is definitely not all the materials that will be made available to you guys. There will be additional training days scheduled, I believe, in the future, and people are welcome to attend a second time if they so choose. Also, once this system does go live, we will absolutely have a group and a team of people that will be fully dedicated to providing assistance to all of our system users. We also will have the help content and the user manual available for you to download and review. So if you need written instructions on how to assign a hearing representative, we'll have those instructions available for you. So we'll make sure that there's a large variety of tools, and then obviously people that'll be available to assist you once the system does go live. So looks like we have a couple of questions that have come in here. Marcy has a question that says, if the hearing was assigned incorrectly by DHCS and the health plan, can the health plan reassign it to the correct plan? And then what about HIPAA? So I think part of that question was answered by Scott, the ability for both state hearing staff and then potentially the health plan themselves to reassign the case. Probably we would allow, from a permissions perspective, the health plan to reassign to a different health plan, but I think reassigning away from DHCS as a whole, those permissions would most likely be reserved to CDSS staff. So the health plans would have to communicate either via DHCS or to state hearings directly to make that reassignment. We want to make sure that it is in fact not a scope of benefits issue at all before pulling that appeal away from DHCS. For instance, if it was a general jurisdiction, CalFresh, CalWorks type of issue and got inappropriately tagged with DHCS, we would absolutely want to recategorize that to make sure it gets scheduled and that the counties need to respond to those issues. But as far as HIPAA goes, the system is HIPAA compliant. It provides all of the security and audit tools and measures necessary for HIPAA auditing. So any actions that are taken by users, for instance, any up to the ability to track who viewed an appeal, who looked at a document, who downloaded a document, who uploaded a document, and when they did it. That goes for tasks for case information, who changed a field, what it was before, and what they changed it to. All of those auditing tools are available to us here at state hearings and to the administrators of the system. In case there is a potential HIPAA violation, we have the ability to track and identify the individuals that were involved in the potential violation. So it definitely is HIPAA compliant. So I think we're definitely comfortable with the security and auditing measures that have been put in place for ACMS. We have another question. How do I get a copy of the handouts?
It should be available in the webinar interface. There's several sections, including the questions that you're using to ask the question. Just below that a little ways should be a section called handouts. If you expand that section, the document should be there for you to download. If you have trouble with it, I can always send it out to the full group after the training is concluded.
We have another question. When will the user guides be available?
That's a good question. They're currently being the first iteration was created a little while back, but as the system kind of evolved and became more of what the production system will ultimately be, we decided to do some revisions on those documents. Those revisions are being done now. They should be available prior to our go live date of September 17th, to answer the next question that just came in. Really our goal is to provide as much, not just documentation for you guys as necessary, but also kind of, as Brendan mentioned, a live group of people to help with any kind of system issues, knowledge transfer issues, which includes training, anything like that. We want to have those documents available for you, the user guides and everything else, plus an actual live resource. Looks like a new question. Are we notified through ACMS if a dismissal is approved or denied? Yes, actually, specifically a dismissal. If your request to dismiss an appeal is denied, then you are notified via email. The assigned hearing rep is notified via email. So new question, will we still get emails from DHCS, or will we check the system for new hearings? I should probably stress that that the answer is both, because the ACMS is really intended to be a system for state hearings to accomplish its work, and we tried really hard to make sure that it's a system that's friendly and usable for both DHCS business partners and all of our business partners, to really create a good collaborative environment to efficiently get our work done. That said, the system doesn't necessarily replace any interactions that you have with DHCS. You guys may between the two of you, figure out better ways of communicating, either within the system or using kind of around the system. But while you will be notified via emails for certain things and the queues for other things, you shouldn't expect for those to really replace any procedures that you have established with DHCS. Even though those may change over time, that'll be something that kind of evolves as business practices settle in over time with the new system. Let's see here. Okay, sure thing. I'll make sure to email out the PowerPoint for the webinar. I'll send it to the entire group just in case anybody else had any trouble. And it looks like right now that's all of the questions. I'll give another couple seconds to see if anybody has anything. All right. In that case, I want to go back here to the PowerPoint, and I'm going to scroll all the way down here to this slide here. This what's next. So this is just to kind of give you an idea of some of the various documentation and tools that are available to help you become comfortable with the system. We do have a lot of things in progress still. The guides, as was mentioned, the various training documentations, all of those. If any of these are interesting to you guys, if you'd like to see them, and if they're completed already, we'd be happy to send them out. I want to direct your attention here to this email address. Well, actually, there it is again. The ACMS at dss.ca.gov. Any kind of questions or comments or concerns you have about the system, any requests for information or anything of that nature can all be sent there. It is a group inbox that's monitored by the project team here, and so we'll do our best to get any information, any questions answered out to you as quickly as we can. Also, just above that on this slide here is our website, our webpage, which contains all of our Appeals Case Management System, ACMS information. That's hosted right here on the CDSS website. This is a good resource for some of what you can expect in the future, the timeline, the progress of the project, some of the benefits. We've got links here to some of the various YouTube videos that we've created, which go over a lot of how the system functions. And so some planned events here, frequently asked questions, and glossary of terms. So far, these are a little bit smaller, but we'll be expanding the glossary of terms, the frequently asked questions as they come in. So we do encourage you guys to visit this website regularly, just for any kind of updates or anything that we post here. And again, that link will be in the PowerPoint that I will be sure to send out immediately after this webinar. So with that, it doesn't look like we have any more questions. I'd really like to thank everybody for participating. We look forward to more of these. Anything you guys need to ensure that you're ready for go live and comfortable with the system. And yeah, so we encourage you to send questions, comments, anything you need, and we look forward to interacting with you more in the future. Thanks, everyone.